Bowlers Association Summer Tour on ESPN is being brought to you by Budweiser Beechwood Aged. For that clean, crisp taste, this Bud's for you. By Price Pfister, the fabulous faucet with the funny name. And by Midas and its dealers across the country. Nobody beats Midas. Nobody. Now let's preview tonight's top 5 finalists. Making his first appearance in the championship round since 1986, it's 33-year-old Billy Young Jr. of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. His opponent in match number 1 is 2-time PBA champion Marc McDowell of Madison, Wisconsin. After a 5th place finish here a year ago, 26-year-old Norm Duke has qualified in the middle of the stack, while the only left-hander on today's telecast, John Mazza, has nailed down the runner-up position. And, of course, for the 4th time in his 18-year PBA career, Butch Soper will need to win just one match, the title game, in order to clinch his 4th career PBA championship. And welcome, everyone, to Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl, located in beautiful Dublin, California, for today's championship round finals of the $140,000 Kessler Open. Hi, everybody. I'm Denny Schreiner, and welcome to Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California. And, of course, this is the first of 12 live PBA Summer Tour events on ESPN. It gives me great pleasure once again to introduce my color commentating partner, PBA Hall of Famer, the only player to win 3 Firestone Tournament of Champions, Mike Durbin. Michael, Butch Soper is 40 years old. You're the only one between you and I that's plus 40. Does he have a chance to win today?
Right away, Denny. Historically on the PBA Tour, once a guy turns 40, it gets tougher and tougher to win. However, there are exceptions. I had my best years once I turned 40, so Butch, we never know how he's going to react. Maybe he'll have his best years after 40. All right, an extra attraction for our viewers across the country here this afternoon. We'll be utilizing the services of Marc Baker, who won this event back in 1987, finished 6th a year ago and 11th this year. And Mark, why do you bowl so well here at Earl Anthony's place?
I really wish I knew. Here and at Riviera and Akron, by far my 2 best houses. I just seem to carry the 10-pin here better than any place else. I just wish I could do it more often.
Let's talk about the scoring condition and how you won an 87 here as compared to finishing 11th here this week.
87, played 3rd, 4th arrow with a ton of oil, all hold. This week, very little oil, had to throw it real hard. My back's killing me today.
All right, a versatile player nonetheless. Mike Durbin, you had to use a lot of different shots in your years on the PBA Tour, but it appears this week that you had to throw it pretty hard and keep it on line in order to strike.
Well, Dan, the lanes are really hooking excessively this week, so the guys compensated in one of 2 ways. As you said, they either threw the ball very, very hard, or they got a very hard piece of equipment and threw it straight. Those are the guys that are on the telecast tonight that adhere to that philosophy.
All right, $23,000 in first place prize money on the line, this being the $140,000 Kessler Open. Coming up, an outstanding match between Marc McDowell and Billy Young Jr. We'll be back with the PBA Summer Tour on ESPN coming up next. There's some first place prize money on the line, but before we get to the championship game, we've got Billy Young Jr. and also Marc McDowell here in the opening match. Very first shot of our Summer Tour Series, Mike Durbin. Nice to have you back.
Nice to be back, Denny. It's nice to see a player like Billy Young, who hasn't been on the telecast, I think, since 1986, bowl well enough to get back out here.
People watching this are saying, wait a minute, he's throwing a blue dot here on the national televised finals. Lane's really hooked quite a bit this week.
Billy has always liked it when he could throw it a little bit right and get it back. The guys have compensated by drilling very, very hard equipment. The blue dot is over a 90 hardness bowling ball on a scale that we measure it with. And that means that the ball's not going to hook as much, but even it's hooking in this condition.
Nice thing about this is the fact that he doesn't have to drill up a spare ball.
That is a nice advantage.
See? Didn't think I'd recognize that, did you?
I think you recognize everything, Denny.
Cross lane, no problem with the 10-pin. And obviously we mentioned Marc Baker, who won here in 1987, joining us in the booth here for this first telecast. Nice to have him along. We'll have some of his insightful commentary. He bowled all week long here and finished 11th. First good look at Marc McDowell of Madison, Wisconsin. And nearly averts the 4-9 right off the bat.
Marc McDowell playing a little bit further inside than Billy Young is, but he's bellying the ball out. Almost got a bad break there with the ball finishing so hard, as we're talking about all week long, that he had the 4-9 standing until the pin came off the sideboard and got it. 4-pin, relatively easy spare.
2-time champion, and waiting at this point in time for his wife Patty to show up from the airport. Mark mentioned to me that he's going to have to win at least a couple of games because she's a little bit late. Mark Baker, let's take a look now at Marc McDowell's game.
Okay, Mark has a real simple game, 5-step, real nice push away, shoulder level, free swing. And you see his leg strength from the football days, real solid at the foul line. He's turned into a hell of a bowler.
And if you take a look at the players on the telecast here this afternoon, he probably hooks it more than any of the other four. Comes right back with a nice shot on lane 33 for our first strike of the match.
Interesting that Marc McDowell, I think, is using a pearlized urethane ball, while Billy Young is using the old polyester plastic bowling ball. So the guys compensated in different ways in what they chose for equipment here.
Well, the messenger came over in a hurry. Looked like Billy set it a little short that time, Mark, but he got a great reaction.
Yeah, he got it out there. The dry boards are right of the first arrow, and if you just get it out there, it'll come back every time.
Thing to watch here, as they say, when we talk about setting it short, it means that he let it down quicker than we thought. Now watch the head pin here. Comes flying back off like a bullet and gets that 10 pin.
Reminiscent of so many of those Durbin strikes through the years.
I knew you were going to say that, Dan.
I thought they invented that messenger after your game.
Somebody shot my messenger.
A little bit of a wall shot there. So for Young, it's a quick double in the second and the third. He now takes a 10-pin lead. Mark, what kind of equipment did you use throughout the week?
I started with a black U-dot hook and ball, and I just geared down every day to a slate, and then finally a black knight, which I've never thrown before, and hope to never throw again.
You told me that you drilled up a couple of balls for each and every day. This one looked like almost a double hopper from McDowell, but he ends up coming right back with a double of his own and ties the match.
Mark's a tough player. He came into his own last year when he won 2 tournaments. He won in Fresno, and then later on in the summer he won our senior touring pro doubles with the great Dick Weber. He'd get close before, but it just seemed like he was lacking a little confidence, and that's the missing ingredient that seems to be in his game now.
In 1986, he won better than $51,000 and was named the PBA Rookie of the Year, and of course set a scoring record and also an earnings record that season for a first-year player. Plenty of room, leaves the 2-8 and nearly ended up with the 2-8-10.
Seemed like Mark got his thumb down around that one a little too much. Didn't get underneath the ball as well as the last two, and it spun down the lane for him.
You talk about getting the thumb down. Can you be a little more specific?
Well, his thumb was in the left of the, when he let go of it, he got it down left, and he more spun over the top of the ball instead of through the ball like the previous 2 shots.
Reminiscent of so many of the shots that I used to throw.
Well, I was waiting for the jab, Denny.
All right. We're one apiece here, Mr. Durbin. A 2-pin lead for Billy Young Jr. We'll be back with more of the PBA Summer Tour on ESPN right after these messages.
Instructional video with your paid subscription. Call 800-367-5800 now.
Say it ain't so. There's no way Earl is 50 plus, Mark Baker.
Well, I'm sure the seniors wish he wasn't 50. That pride got to him, and last week he showed why he's probably the best that ever lived.
Winning last week the Showboat PBA Seniors Championship in Las Vegas, his second seniors title. Of course, he has 41 regular National Tour events. All-time winning player on the PBA Tour. Billy Young leading by 2, and he wishes he had that shot back.
Well, it's interesting. You know, he got away with that exact same shot the time before where the ball just seemed to slip off. He seemed to lose it at the bottom of the swing, and he got the strike. This time he lost it again, and the ball speed went down, and boom. The penalty was what we call double pinochle.
First open frame, unless something dramatic happens here in the 4th. Billy Young Jr. opens up the door. Told me that the biggest difference in this event was after the opening round, he went and drilled up that bowling ball and gave him a lot more confidence throughout the week. Takes a good look at the rack on the left-hand lane. Championship pair here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl, lanes 33 and 34. See a little more speed attached to that shot, but let me pose this question to you, Mark Baker. When you're throwing harder shelled equipment like that, your percentage of carry isn't going to be as good.
Not near as much as when you throw a urethane ball. You're right about that. Yeah, you don't want to be soft like the last shot this week. If you're soft, it was a split 95% of the time.
McDowell, while sitting on the bench, has taken a 16-pin lead.
I might mention, Denny, personally, he may be in a position where he thinks he needs to add a piece of tape, but he's afraid he'll hang. If he would just blow in that thumb hole, it could create enough moisture that he'd be able to hang on to it.
So Marshall Holman has done through all those years.
Right.
Butch Soper does that too, I think, doesn't he?
Mike Albee does.
Yep. Yeah, virtually every shot. McDowell trying to jump on the opportunity. Plenty of speed, and he kind of backhands the 4-pin. And Mark Baker, did you have any success tripping the 4 this week?
The first day I had a lot of success. I was like, it was back to my favorite house. I was carrying everything the first day. Friday got to me. Not too many trip 4s on Friday.
I know if you continue to excel in this bowling center, you'll be trying to buy a piece of it from Earl Anthony before it's all said and done.
Too bad we don't bowl here every week.
McDowell looking to double up and extend the lead to 26. Gives it plenty of room, and he has jumped all over the opportunity.
Well, that's the mark of an outstanding player. You know, guys expect that on the PBA Tour. If they open, they know that their opponent is going to jump on them. Billy Young's got to regroup, get his thinking back, and he's got to get the ball over the foul line on this right lane.
Set a touch short the last time. Not enough speed, left the big 4. It's been the balance in the match thus far. A little more direct this time around, and guess what? It's the same result.
Just not firm enough, in my opinion, anyway, with that speed.
I know, Mark, you mentioned to me that you could not miss left this week. If you missed left, you were in deep trouble.
Yeah, there's absolutely no hold, and like Billy's just not quite getting the ball out in the lane like he was last night when he really bowled well.
Shakes his head, and so many times as you watch the professional, not only in match play but also in the championship round, they get zeroed in on one lane, but then the other lane presents some problems. That's obviously, Mark Baker, what's happening to Billy Young on the right-hand lane.
He made that shot in the second frame when he got it out and he struck, and the next 2 shots, he thought he threw them both fairly well. And you can tell he thinks he's lined up, and out of nowhere the ball splits. That's the worst feeling to have when you think you're lined up and you're splitting. That means it's a quick day on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think you've made that quality shot and you don't realize that something's wrong.
Down by 42, and starting to think about Fresno, California, which is the PBA Touring Pro's next stop. A little better angle of approach, doesn't quite get the kick of the 4. And so Billy Young Jr., who won his only PBA title back in 1985, struggling here in the opening game.
Well, Marc McDowell's just got to keep his mind on his work. He seems to have this match well in hand. Right now we're already getting into what are the possibilities, and I think the best that Billy can get if he strikes out is 206. So Mark just needs to, quote, keep his nose clean, or his frames clean.
Easier said than done this week at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl. We'll be back with the conclusion of match number 1 of the $140,000 Kessler Open, live from Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California, right after these messages.
Remember how much fun it was to color.
Well, without question, Mark Baker will be watching the Phillies as they take on the Cubs from Veterans Stadium, 8 p.m. Eastern Time tonight on ESPN, because your good buddy Lenny Dykstra will be playing.
Yeah, he dropped down there 400 this week, but he's still leading the National League in hitting, and I'm very proud of him.
And, of course, the reason why he's hitting the cover off the baseball is because he confers with you daily concerning his hitting skills.
Well, not about his tobacco chewing skills, that's for sure.
All right. None of that on the PBA Tour. I mean, sticking on the approach is one thing, but one player right now who is having no difficulty whatsoever in figuring out the championship pair is Marc McDowell, who now has struck in the 5th, 6th, and the 7th, leads by 52, and he is basically at this point in time getting loose.
He's just cruising right now.
Next in line, Norm Duke, John Mazza, qualifying number 2, and Butch Soper, our top seed this week. Oh, watch out. Toot the whistle. It's a cave-in for McDowell.
When things are going your way, they're going your way. He's just really real long on that shot. He stayed to the ball real long. Just got that real lucky break and caved out the bucket.
Watch the head pin. Barely hit the 2. In fact, it actually didn't hit the 1. Nor did they say in order to get a strike, the 1 pin has to hit the 2. That time it didn't, and he still got a strike.
Billy Young, who says, I knew I could strike on lane 34. It was just a question of time. And, of course, you always strike when you're out of the wood.
Well, that's a given, Denny.
Billy Young Jr., nonetheless, an outstanding week for him. He'd like to finish things off. If he could take this off the sheet, he could still shoot a game of 206, but it won't be nearly enough.
Still, they're all proud out here, Denny. Want to salvage something.
Shot rolls up once again. Can't quite trip out the 4.
I think every time when he got a strike up, he got a little soft with a shot.
Do you realize that when you're out there in the championship round, Mike? I know when you're so isolated, do you feel like you throw the ball a little slower than you normally do in a regular event?
Well, you have to know how you personally respond to pressure. Personally, myself, I had the tendency to do just that, to throw it a little soft. Other guys throw it harder under pressure. So and you have to realize what your mistake is and then compensate for it. So under pressure, I would think keep your speed up.
I know, Mark, you're shaking your head. You go the other way.
I always throw it hard. That's my size, and I get a little nervous. I always throw a little too hard and leave a lot of buckets.
Well, the interesting thing about McDowell's shot, Mark Baker, is it almost seems to be rolling out at the head pin.
I think everybody's ball rolled out just about all week, except for Butch Soper's. There's so much dry out there that the ball's used up all of its energy by the end of the lane, and it's just kind of stopped, and it's like an optical illusion. It's rolling to the right.
What never ceases to amaze me is one PBA player can go out and struggle to shoot maybe 180 or 190, and then the other guy's whacking him at a 268 pace.
268 pace, then.
Well, obviously, Patty McDowell, if she is still en route from the San Francisco International Airport, will maybe get an opportunity to see her husband bowl, at least in game number 2, if he keeps winning.
I don't know, when you get in this situation, you're almost hoping you get tapped because you don't want to waste the strikes.
Oh, come on, don't start on me. Don't start on me with that.
Well, right now, he doesn't care if he gets tapped. But you never do now.
That's why he is striking. Don't you understand that? Bowling is a mental game, Mark. Why would you think about a tap now?
No, I just like to keep striking. Least amount of shots as possible is my theory, and spares are they're too easy to miss. I like throwing strikes.
Okay, if he strikes here, a game of 268, so quickly out of the chute comes Marc McDowell. Looked like he got his thumb underneath that one a little bit, and finally, after Durbin puts the negative thought into his mind, he leaves the soft 10. A wonderful game, though. A game of 267, and Michael, you got to love starting that way.
9 strikes, 9 out of 12.
Yeah, I'm up here with Denny. My name's Larry.
Strung 7 consecutive strikes together, and that was more than enough to get the job done. Billy Young Jr. will have to wait for yet another championship round appearance to win PBA title number 2. After it's been a couple, 3 years since you've gotten to the championship round, though, Mark Baker, it has to feel good to get to the final 5.
Yeah, that's the whole goal every week, just to make the top 5. Whatever you get on TV, I think is kind of gravy. Anything can happen on top 5. I'm sure Billy's proud just to be out there and break that jinx, get back on TV.
And it has to give you plenty of confidence heading into the remainder of the summer tour.
Well, the condition's been pretty much the same the last 6 weeks, so he knows he's bowled well the last 6 weeks. He has to be looking forward to every tournament from now on.
Out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Interesting note, his dad won the ABC All Events Championship back in 1962, so outstanding bowling has run through the Young family. Billy finishes it out with a wave in a game of 175. Drops the opening game 267 to 175. And we'll be back with more of the $140,000 Kessler Open live from Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California, right after this. And the finalists by a round, and the number that jumps right out of the blue is, look at Mazza, 88th, tied for 88th after the end of the opening round, jumped all the way to 9th, and told me the biggest key for him there, Mark Baker, was a little adjustment in wrist position. He did it the final game of the opening round, and he made up a lot of ground.
He was high that night. He came out of nowhere. He was bowling right next to me. He seemed to be shooting 250 every game.
And all the players, all told, averaged 197.92. A little better than 210 to qualify, and 204.1 just to cash, Michael.
Scores are on the low side. Anytime you have lanes hooking that much, not everyone can adjust.
Take a look at some of the other numbers provided. Size of the field 160, that's capacity, and our qualifying leader was in at 4.085. And it's time now to take a look at Mike Durbin's average builders, the only player in PBA history ever to win a tournament using 3 steps, 4 steps, and 5 steps. Watch this.
On this summer's ESPN telecast, as well as on this afternoon's telecast, you're going to see bowlers using a variety of different approaches and different deliveries. This afternoon, we have 2 players, Billy Young and John Mazza, that use a 4-step delivery. We have another 2, Marc McDowell and our tournament leader, Butch Soper, that use 5 steps. And then we have Norm Duke, who uses 6. So what I like to do for our opening tip this summer is to look at these different deliveries plus one more. Now we're going to start with 4 steps. And the reason I start with 4 is because that's what I use. Plus, I think it's the easiest to learn, the easiest to teach, and less can go wrong with your delivery in a 4-step approach. The way it works is I'm basically standing with my feet reasonably close together. I may want to put my right foot a little bit behind my left, but basically I want to keep most of the weight on my left foot. The ball is in my right hand. If I'm right-handed, and of course you left-handers, just turn it around to the other side for you. What I'm thinking here is right hand, right heel together at the same time, and I push the ball about as far as I step. And there is the first step. At this point, I let go with my left hand, and gravity pulls the ball down alongside my right leg in the second step. My left arm is out here for balance and to square up my approach. At this point, the swing continues on up, and the ball is a little too heavy to lift, but the point is that the ball should be at the peak of the backswing in the third or the next to the last step. And then my 4th step is what I recommend, a nice long slide. And the way it looks in actual practice is like this. And it's 1, 2, 3, slide. There's 4 steps. Now we'll look at 5. 5 is used by a lot of different players on the tour, and I think one of the big reasons they use it is because it gives them a little trigger step to start a little bit more rhythm and flow to their approach. What I do is I move back on the approach a little bit here, and I shift. Most of my weight is going to be on my right foot because I'm starting with my left. And the first step is usually a small step, depending on the individual, but it just steps out about like so. I haven't moved the ball. From here on out, it's just like a 4-step delivery. The ball goes out, down, back on the 3rd step, and then a slide. This is what it looks like. There's 5 steps. Now we'll try 6. 6 is being used on tonight's telecast, or this afternoon's telecast, by Norm Duke because he wants to get more speed. He's trying to generate a little bit more speed in his delivery, and he feels he can do it with 6 steps. I have to move further back, this is as far back as I've ever stood, toward the end of the approach. Again, most of my weight is on my left foot. What I'm going to do now is take 2 steps and not move the ball. It goes like this. I start with the right, then the left, and from here on out, again, it's just like a 4-step delivery as the 5 was after the first step. Let's see what it looks like. If I can do it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now there's one more delivery that I like to show you that nobody is using on the PBA Tour now. But it's a delivery that I use throughout my career sometimes, and a delivery that many people use when they start off the game, and that's 3 steps. A lot of people will start with 3 steps, and then an instructor will come along and say, you can't use 3, and he'll switch them to 4. But I believe 3 is a really viable approach for many amateur bowlers. What happens with 3, I need to move up on the approach in front of the 12-foot line. Again, most of the weight is on my right foot, and what you need to think about with a 3-step delivery is I need to get the ball down as quickly as possible. It has to come down here quickly. The timing is going to be slightly later, but we try and get it into motion as soon as possible, and that's what you want to think about. And it looks like this. 1, 2, 3. There you have it. 3, 4, 5, and 6 steps. The thing that you need to do is to pick out the delivery that's best for you and work on that and improve it. We'll see you again Thursday night in St. Charles for the Senior Open there.
The key is how many steps do you want to take to move up the step ladder here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl. $23,000 on top of the $140,000 Kessler Open. 4 players remain. Our upcoming match, Marc McDowell and Norm Duke. Don't go away. We'll be back with Game 7, 175 victory over Billy Young Jr. Marc McDowell now takes on Norm Duke out of Fort Worth, Texas. In game number 2, the winner of this one takes on John Mazza. Butch Soper, our top seed this week at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California. McDowell with 9 strikes in game number 1, a double and a 7-bagger. Let's see how he starts game number 2. Picks up right where he left off.
Speed was just slightly down, but not enough. He got away and tripped the 4-pin.
Toughest thing in the world, I guess, has to be coming back, Mark Baker, after a 5 or a 6, 7-minute break after you've won a match.
Yeah, you got that first win under your belt, and you're kind of relaxed. So you come back and your ball speed's always a little less because you feel so good winning that first game. It's tough to get that ball speed back up.
Norm Duke right up the track and leaves the 9-pin.
And that's as high as a backswing as I've ever seen Norm Duke have right there. He's really forcing that delivery to throw as hard as he possibly can.
What kind of a toll did that take on most of the players this week, Mark, having to throw the ball that hard, that long?
Personally, my back doesn't feel too good sometimes. It takes a lot out of you because you can't get soft on any shot. And after 42 games in 3 days, it takes something out of you.
Little backup ball at the spare, so Duke with a spare up in the first.
Norm takes a 6-step. The first 2 doesn't move the ball. And then his swing is real high, as high as I've ever seen it. He's real low to the ground when he starts that low, and he just gets the ball really whipping through it real firm today.
One thing we want to keep an eye on as well is look at where that toe ends up. Very, very close to the foul line.
And he was back then, Den. I mean, he's been closer than that.
Whistles it up the track again. Solid hit for Norm Duke on the left-hand lane.
Appears the left-hand lane is a smidge tighter than the right. Smidge?
Is a smidge more than a freckle or less?
I don't know, about the same.
5 years. It's just a freckle more than the other lane. We've never yet determined how much a freckle is. Not much. McDowell comes back, solid hit, and the 6-pin just goes whistling around the 10.
And did you see that ball quit at the pocket? It actually rolled out right at the pocket, and I think that's why he left a solid 10.
All right, who was the greatest roll-up player of all time, Mike Durbin?
The greatest roll-up player of all time?
This is opinion. I don't know.
Dick Ricker?
Dick Ricker. Okay. All right. Dick Ricker, probably the most successful television bowler in the history of the PBA. He didn't lose many when he got to the championship round.
If I had somebody throwing a strike for my life, I would have picked Dick Ricker.
Well, this one's all tied up after 2 frames. Duke is on the strike. Meanwhile, Marc McDowell now in the 3rd. A player with, I think, tremendous potential, wouldn't you say, Michael?
It's always been there. You know, he came right on out, and he was Rookie of the Year in 1986. Seemed to hit a low, and then finally won last year. And we thought that would just open the gates.
2-time All-America out of West Texas State University. Settles in and flushes it on the left-hand lane.
You know, what does happen in these conditions sometimes then is as the bowlers bowl, the oil, what's out there, gets carried further down the lane. Now, in that particular shot, I thought it might run high. But it does seem that Marc McDowell has just a hair hold in where he's playing the lanes. He's playing a little further left than Norm Duke is.
Fairly solid season thus far for Norm. Stayed in that shot a long time. The ball went long, and he leaves the soft 10.
He is throwing hard.
What would you say miles per hour these guys are throwing it right now?
I think Norm is throwing it upwards of 18, 19 miles per hour right now. I don't think Marc McDowell is throwing it quite as hard as Norm Duke is.
Well, you know, the thing that was really interesting, and I'll ask Mark Baker this question, when he came out of the ball there, his hand was almost straight. Didn't look like he had any fingers in that shot at all.
He's throwing it right off the back, and he's throwing it so hard he's actually popping off the shot when he throws the ball. He's putting everything he owns into it.
Coming out of the ball almost looks like that old Glenn Allison release, you know, where you almost kind of wave at the pins.
Glenn was very, well, that's kind of like the Butch Soper release this week, too.
Well, the point I'm making is that you don't necessarily really want to put that much lift on the ball. This is almost like an old lacquer shot, isn't it? Don't you want the ball to maybe do some of the work and let the lane do it?
Probably hooking even more than some of the old lacquer conditions right here this week.
Well, this is a rocket from the right side, and Duke really likes lane 33. Throws a confident shot there. this one's very close indeed, all evened up here at the early stages of game number 2. We'll be back with more from Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl right after this.
I got the job.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So, who told you about the National Business
Dream? See the finals of the Stella Artois Grass Court Championship Sunday afternoon at 3 Eastern on ESPN.
Match is evened up here in the 4th. Marc McDowell looking to double and take the early lead here in game number 2.
Here it comes. There it is. Identical shot to the second frame. Not much he can do. You know, that's the difference between 260 and 200. Sometimes there's those solid 10s in between strikes.
Mark Baker, did you leave a lot of solid 10s this week?
If I didn't leave any solid 10s, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be down there bowling.
Okay, that explains that. I guess that's the key each and every week for the professionals, though. It seems that the guys are all quality players. They're all able to hit the pocket, but it's those who come up with a percentage of carry.
It's how many strikes can you string together. You're going to leave 10 pins no matter what you do. If you can throw those 4, 5, and 6 baggers consistently every week, that's when you're making the TV show. When you're leaving about every other shot, it's real tough.
All right, so McDowell and Duke tied at this point, nearing the midway point of game number 2. The only left-hander on the telecast, John Mazza, next in line. He qualified number 2. Butch Soper, our top seed this week. It's been a good lane for McDowell thus far, and once again he flushes it on lane 33.
So far we have, if my count is right, we've got 5 strikes on 33 and nary a strike on 34 in this match.
Now here's a good look at the PBA watch and the clock, and the player has to get the shot off within 25 seconds, correct?
That's correct. Norm Duke was fined earlier in Peoria because he didn't get it off within 25 seconds.
Oh, he asked for the message, and the messenger delivered that time, slicing out the 10-pin. So for Duke, it's a double and a 10-pin lead.
And you watch him come up at the line because he's throwing so hard, and he wants to make sure he stays behind the foul line. Now watch the head pin. When that pin comes back across 99 times out of 100, it's that head pin.
Little pirouette performance that time, talking it home, and the fist being shown early on, right around the backstretch in this one. Raising up on the shot, and he nearly paid the price that time, Michael.
You know, he didn't do that at all in the whole practice session, Den. And in the practice session, there's a black line at the foul line, and he was going into that black line. Now he doesn't want to even fool with the foul, and watch him at the foul line here as he comes up, although the ball's gone. But that's in an effort to stay behind the foul line, I think, anyway.
So the first double of the match in the 4th and the 5th for Norm Duke. Larry Lickstein, PBA Players Service Director, operating the watch. And I want to get back to that a little more because there's a brand new rule for the PBA touring players and for the seniors as well. We'll develop that perhaps the next time Norm steps up. McDowell, meanwhile, trying to get something started, and now he's come up with a double.
He threw that ball. It actually wasn't as good as the last 2 shots. It hit a little lighter. That's probably why it carried. It didn't hit quite as hard.
Interesting, too, because he went wider with the shot, and the ball actually rolled out more at the pocket. That ball was definitely going straight as it hits the 1-3, but it knocked the 6-pin knocked the 10 right out of there.
Let me pose a question to you. Is it better to have the ball rolling out at the pocket or continuing to hook to the left?
Well, I never had my ball hooked to the left. You have to ask Mark.
You're right. We do have a contrast in styles in the booth here this afternoon. This one rolls up way too high and disaster. Strikes for McDowell here in the 7th.
The one mistake. Watch his thumb. The problem has been if his thumb has gone down. Looked good at that point, and it just hooked too quick on the leg. He varied that speed 1 mile per hour, and it can be the difference between a strike and 6 and 8 out.
McDowell has to do his best to cover up the count, but he trails right now by 14. A complete reversal of what happened to Marc McDowell in game number 1 when he shot 267. Back with a conclusion right after this.
How to make good.
McDowell, with the open in the 7th, has given Norm Duke a 14-pin lead here in the 7th as he stands up on lane 34, the right-hand lane.
Should mention that on the 25-second rule, with the clock is running right now, Norm throws this shot and leaves the soft 10. The first violation of that rule is a $100 fine for the player on the touring players. The second violation is a $1,000 fine, and every violation after that is $1,000.
Doesn't that seem to be a bit high?
It was discussed for a great amount of time at the tournament committee meeting and the executive board, and that was what the touring players came up with.
I mean, why wouldn't you take away pins?
Well, the seniors have done that. The seniors that we'll be covering next Thursday night in St. Charles have decided that for every violation that occurs during the game, it's a 5-pin penalty.
Well, I mean, if you look at what golf has done through the years, slow play is a 2-shot penalty.
Well, that's, different people have different opinions on different subjects, and the seniors thought differently than the touring players here.
13-pin advantage, down on one knee, and a gorgeous shot on lane 33 for Norm Duke.
And Marc McDowell's not out of this match yet. Down 13 pins, he still has a potential score of 225 if he can strike out. So it's these situations now that separate winning titles from not winning titles. The guys that can perform in the 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Good acceleration, plenty of room, and that may have been his best shot of the match.
That definitely, when he got to that ball real firm, got way out there, and he came back real hard. That ball didn't roll out nearly as much as the other three.
And Patty, after watching her husband throw it through the nose, gets to see the other side of the spectrum as she's just come into the bowling center.
She gave him a little kiss in between frames, and maybe that's what caused a little bit more speed.
Well, this one all the way out to about the 1 board, the danger 1 or 2 board, but back end rolling nicely. So McDowell keeps his hopes alive. Needs a clutch shot here in the 9th.
His most important shot of the week right now. Oh! What pin was that?
Well, that's the guess. Anybody up here know which one it was?
I guess it was the 6 pin.
It was the right pin is what it was.
Yeah. I guess it was the 6 coming across to get it, but I guess we're not going to get a shot to find out.
Well, now the pressure swings back to Duke in the 9th, who really isn't taking much time.
Boy, did he throw that one great, I'll tell you. This is the new Speedy Duke. We've got a new player on the tour.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned the fact that that he is one of the more deliberate players on the national tour. Mark, you don't take a great deal of time up there.
I'm one of the fastest guys on tour. I always wonder what they think about. I'd get too nervous to take that much time. I'd get up there and I hum it.
Think about all the things that might go wrong, huh? Well, this one's come right down to the 10th. That's the way most PBA match games end up. Rolls it up, and the worst break of the week, and then finally the 10-pin drops as Norm Duke right now is beside himself.
Well, either case, I mean, if he'd opened there, it would have been a terrible break. It's not a good break as it is, but he needs to make this spare and get at least 8. As we see the 7-10 standing there, the head pin comes back and delivers a mini message here. But at least he got the 10 out of there.
Almost like a telegram.
Crowd was reacting to the replay that they saw on the monitor.
Smart play now by Duke. Step back, take a nice deep breath, relax. He knows what the score is.
And, oh, my goodness, in a situation like that to miss the 7. I never have understood players that shoot spares down the left side of the lane. Duke always shoots his left-hand spares that way. He's put Marc McDowell in the situation now with 1 strike. He wins the match.
McDowell right now working on a double. Final score for Norm Duke with the miss in the 10th, 205.
Here it comes. Oh! I tell you, it's things like that that win titles. You never know.
Well, that's why if you stay out here long enough, there have been some tough breaks for Marc McDowell in the championship round as well. And there, Mark Baker, he's literally given a match right on a silver platter.
That pin that rolled across the deck and got that 4-pin out, he'll remember that. That was the key hit. If he doesn't strike there, it's all academic.
Stay behind the line, go ahead and throw the Brooklyn. Doesn't make any difference. Duke up off the bench. He has to be a little despondent at this point because he was in a position to win the match before he missed the 7-pin.
And Marc McDowell, just on that shot, showed his veteran experience. The only thing that could beat him then is if he happened to send one out wide and it went in the channel. He made sure that didn't happen. He just threw a rocket at the headband.
So after defeating Billy Young Jr. 267 to 175, Marc McDowell now disposes of Norm Duke, who collects $6,000 for his fourth place finish. The final in this one, 214 to 205. So Marc McDowell continues to move up the stepladder here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California. Next in line will be John Mazza, our number 2 seed, and then the top seed this week, Butch Soper. Well, Patty got here just in time to watch her husband win game number 2. We'll be back with a look at the first edition of the Bowling News here on the PBA Summer Tour after these messages.
B.F. Goodrich TA Tires.
B.F. Goodrich TA Tires perform like great athletic shoes.
Pizza Hut's Bowling News. And welcome back, everyone, to Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California. Hi again, everybody. I'm Denny Schreiner. And if you were one of the more than 50,000 participants who played in the 88th renewal of the American Bowling Congress Championships, which were recently concluded in Reno, Nevada, do me a favor. Keep an eye out for the postman, because your paycheck is definitely in the mail. If you competed in the team event, you needed a score of at least 2,700 to head to the pay window. Meanwhile, 1095 in the doubles competition also cashed, while a total of 565 in the singles was good enough also for a payout. And, of course, finally, in the 9-game all-events category, anything 1740 or above was good enough to cash. All told, 9,199 teams bowled in this year's event, and believe it or not, there was a tie for the top spot. The Brunswick Rhinos from Tonawanda, New York, and the State Farm team from Detroit both totaled 3201 and winning almost $10,000 per team. In the doubles competition, Bob Ufari and Mike Newman posted an outstanding score of 1448 en route to clinching that title. Only 23 pins back in the runner-up position were Dave Shojai and Terry Engel from nearby Walnut Creek, California. All it took to capture the coveted ABC singles crown was a 3-game series of 791. Bob Hochrein of Dubuque, Iowa, put together games of 278, 255, and 258, and he needed every stick because less than a mark separated the top 3 positions. The all events went to the individual star of this year's championships. That, of course, was Mike Newman of Tonawanda, New York. Mike won or shared 4 titles, joining ABC Hall of Famers Bill Lillard and Ed Lubanski as the only men to win 4 titles in a single tournament. Consistency on the PBA Tour pays off in a number of different ways. Of course, aside from winning prize money, the players are also awarded competitive points for their basic finishes in each and every tournament on the national tour. Over the past 18 months, the current PBA Player of the Year, Amleto Monticelli, has led the way on the PBA point list. He'll be making plans to be traveling to the Far East this coming October to compete in the Japan Cup, a tournament that he won back in 1988. Keep in mind the top 15 players off the PBA point list, plus defending champion Randy Peterson, will be bowling against a very talented field, which will also be featuring some of Japan's top players. And, of course, while we're on the subject of talking about bowling well in the land of the rising sun, who could ever forget the record-setting performance set by Billy Hardwick when he averaged 271 for the final 4 games of the 1968 Japan Gold Cup. Billy is a member of both the PBA and ABC Halls of Fame, and he added yet another honor when he was inducted into the San Mateo County Sports Hall of Fame, along with such well-known athletes as Olympic track star Wendy Brown, baseball standouts Jim Fregosi and Keith Hernandez, and, of course, figure skating champion Debbie Thomas. Over the past 4 years, the PBA Summer Tour on ESPN has been shown live on Wednesday nights. But here in 1990, a few scheduling changes. So we want to keep you abreast of when the PBA Tour can be seen on ESPN. Here's a look. And it gives me great pleasure at this point in time to introduce the co-proprietor here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl, the great one himself, Earl Anthony. And Earl, let's chat about that seniors victory at the Showboat last Saturday. It was a tough one against Tita Semez.
It was. Tita's always tough. He's a very experienced player. He's got 5 senior championships to his credit, and I think he's a senior leading money winner, if I'm not mistaken. Tita and I have had some great matches over the years. That wasn't one of them, but over the years we've had some great matches, and it's always fun to go out there and bowl against people like Weber and Salvino, the old over-the-hill gang.
Funny, a couple of years ago, you and I sat in the lounge here. We chatted about what you might do on the senior tour, and you told me very bluntly at that point in time, I don't know if I'm even going to bowl. I'm kind of tired. 2 years later now, rejuvenated. You've been practicing, working hard. Why the big change?
Well, I really don't know, Denny. I just had this competitive fire in me, I guess, or something of that nature, and I just wanted to get out and get some competition. And I've been working very hard and changing my game, trying to develop more ball speed, a longer arm swing, and a good friend of mine, Dean Johnson, up in Oregon, has been helping me a lot. He's been watching every ball for the last 6 weeks and says, oh, you're doing it wrong. You got to do this, do that. So we made some major changes, and it's paying off.
All right. Obviously, there are fewer games on the senior tournament schedule. What kind of an effect does that have, and is it more difficult to win a seniors event or a regular touring event?
Oh, I think it's much more difficult to win a regular tour event. The guys on the regular tour, for example, are out here to make a living. They work very hard in their game day after day. It's a job. The guys in the senior tour, it's more of a fraternizing. It's good to see you again. Haven't seen you since last year type thing. Take your golf clubs along. We'll have dinner. Oh, by the way, we have to bowl tomorrow, so don't forget. That kind of thing. It's more of a fun thing. It's I think it's a much more relaxed atmosphere for the seniors, whereas the touring players, again, it's their job.
Earl, thanks for stopping by. I know you're about ready to catch a flight to head to St. Charles. Maybe you'll win 2 senior events in a row.
Well, it's going to be fun to bowl in Weber's Bowling Center again. It's been a long time.
Well, let's hope he puts up a nice shot on the other side, perhaps. That's it for this first edition of the Bowling News. Bowling News is brought to you by Pizza Hut, home of pan pizza that's winning the hearts of America. Pizza Hut, making it great.
It will be a who's who of professional bowling's greats as Dick Weber and Earl Anthony lead the field at the AMF Bobcat Senior Classic. Live Thursday night at 7:30 Eastern, only on ESPN. Sunday night, Lenny Dykstra, baseball's hottest hitter, sparks the Phillies' attack. The Hawk, Andre Dawson, provides the power for the Cubs. It's Sunday Night Baseball, live at 8 Eastern on ESPN. Baseball tonight.
Only 3 players left in the chase for the $140,000 Kessler Open Championship. Our Mike Durbin is standing by with the top seed, Butch Soper. Michael, what does he have to say?
Thank you, Denny. Butch, you've averaged 223 so far for 40-some games. It's been a good week for you so far.
Yeah, if I ever had a favorite condition to bowl, this is it. Whenever you have to throw the ball hard and the lanes are hooking a lot and the scores ain't too high, that's my favorite condition usually.
You know, folks, Butch has just confided in me. Tomorrow is Father's Day, and he's going to be 41 tomorrow on Father's Day. You're this age now, but you're bowling better than ever. Why's that?
Was 41 old?
No, I don't think it's old.
I think I watched you reach your peak at 42 or something. No, I don't know. It's like, maybe it's like having a job or something. You're at it. I think I've been bowling 35 years, and you got to be getting better at it bowling for 35 years, wouldn't you think?
I would think so. It happened that way with me, Butch.
I don't know.
You won last year. You got an opportunity to win here tonight. What's the future hold for Butch Soper?
I don't know. As far as I don't feel 40, 41, and my sponsors in Chicago, they love the action, and so do I. I love this sport to death. And as long as you keep in good shape and you keep your mind really sound, I think you can last another five or 6 years, and maybe take a couple years break and join the senior tour.
That's the plan for Butch?
That's it. That's it.
All right, the lanes are hooking excessively here. Everybody on the telecast tonight is throwing hard. You have always thrown hard, yet you're not a big person. How does someone your size throw the bowling ball so hard?
You ever watch my feet? I mean, I take 5 real fast steps. And you get all that momentum going to the line, you can pick up some pretty good speed.
That's how you do it, just with that momentum going to the line.
Exactly.
All right, one last question. You've led 4 tournaments now. You're 2-1 from the top seed position. What's your attitude going into this match?
Just stay loose and kind of like pace yourself. Earl told me pace yourself mentally. That's what I'm trying to do. It's kind of like, this is tough, waiting around for an hour and a half to bowl. It's not easy. I'll tell you what, it's never been easy.
But you're ready.
I'm ready, yeah.
Well, there he is. He says he's ready to take on the next match, and the winner of the next match is going to be John Mazza versus Marc McDowell. Don't go away, because we're going to be right back.
No matter what sport America likes, there's one place America...
Enjoying the competition here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl. And all Marc McDowell has done through the first 2 games is average 240.5 and strike 9 out of 12 shots on the left-hand lane. Is it 10 for 13? Guess time doesn't make much of a difference.
He's ready.
First good look now at John Mazza out of Mount Clemens, Michigan, the only left-hander on the telecast, and I guess that could be construed as an advantage.
Either advantage or disadvantage, depends how he bowls today. If he has the best shot, it'll be a big advantage.
Right over the second arrow. 2-4-7. Always have to get used to thinking left-handed here.
Not what you want to open with.
No, not the easiest spare in the world. He's going to move right. John's a pretty good spare shooter. He'll throw hard at the spare, try and hit the 2-pin on the left. Well, I think he's going to move right. Maybe he's not. Yeah, he did.
Just 26 years of age, still shopping for his first career PBA championship.
Trouble. Got it.
Nearly won earlier this winter, losing to Jim Pensack in Cleveland.
And when Jim was on his real hot streak, he opened up that game with 5 in a row. 4-step player. The ball held right waist high. You see them? Pushes and steps. Pretty free swing. Backswing slightly over his head. Nice long slide. Pretty solid delivery.
Playing the second arrow both lanes, but doing so with 2 different balls, Mark.
He's finding the left lane hooking a lot more than the right lane, so he's using a ball that goes a little straighter. He wants to stay around second arrow, so he's on a different ball on each lane.
Key to his success this week, a stop at Stonehenge Place in Cuyahoga Falls. Spent 2 or 3 hours working out with Fred Borden and worked on some hand positions, push away, and fell right back into his game.
Freddie is great teaching different wrist positions and hand positions.
So as opposed to changing equipment or angles or lines, sometimes you can make the adjustments by just working your hand a little bit.
Well, that's what John said was the difference from going from 88th into the next block. He averaged over 240.
Well, whatever wrist position Marc McDowell is using, you got to stay with it. It's working right now as he opens with a double here in game number 3.
And that was that same solid 10 hit, but the 6-pin just kind of leaned on the 10 as it went around at that time. His wife Patty looks kind of uptight there. Each strike gets her closer to that title.
Already has shot a 267 game, defeated Billy Young Jr. 267-175, and then knocked off Norm Duke 214 to 205. Trying to make it 3 in a row, and he does. And what's going through your mind, Mark Baker, if you're John Mazza and you know you've run into a guy that's just doing nothing but throwing strikes?
I think John knows that Mark's in the zone we talk about. He's just throwing every ball pure. John has to strike here early to put some pressure on Mark, because Mark's so loose right now.
You can see the intensity right there in Mazza's eyes. He realizes he's got to jumpstart things pretty quick here. If not, he could be saying hello to third place. That one a little high, and the 2-pin remains.
Just not giving it room on that lane, Dan. He's got to get the ball out there. It's just so hard to come off cold. You've been sitting for an hour over there, and the lanes are hooking excessively on both sides of the lane, and you've got to give it room, and you tell yourself that, but he just doesn't do it. He's aiming at that second arrow out there. And he's right of it. I got closer to the third arrow.
So you got to believe he made the mistake to the right that time, huh?
That's what it looks like to me. He does have a tendency to get that swing behind his back sometimes, and he has a pretty high backswing, so he can get offline.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because he said that was one of the things that he and Freddie worked on, was aligning the swing to the target and walking to the target to try and keep things on line.
Well, it's harder to walk toward the target when your target is either a long ways to the left of you or to the right of you, depending on whether right hand or left. At least it always was for me. I had a lot better success when I could keep shallow lines and walk right straight toward my target.
Well, this time he gives it a little room, and he comes up short.
He's in trouble. It's just so tough to use two different balls on a pair of lanes and try and make your adjustment that way. See, he barely gets the head pin. The head pin does not hit the 3-pin. Has the bucket there, kicks out the 6-pin, leaves the 3-5-9. Not an easy spare. You're lost. Your opponent's striking like crazy. Not an ideal situation.
But he makes the tough spare. You know, Mazza won 10 of his first 11 matches in this championship to solidify his #2 position. He'd love to have a victory here in the semifinal game. We'll be back with more after this.
I never saw you hit so well.
Video with your paid subscription. Call 800-367-5800 now.
Coming up next on ESPN, the Budweiser Racing Across America Series, the Ohio Derby, $300,000 up for grabs, and if memory serves me correctly, there are at least 18 horses in the field, I think, and that is the maximum. The 3-year-olds running 1 1/8 at the Thistledown Racetrack, which is only, what, a driver and a wedge away from where you and I live, right, Michael?
Not that far.
Right, northeastern Ohio. Don't forget, stay tuned for the Ohio Derby. And this horse right now is in the backstretch and running in full stride.
I've always wondered what hits the 10-pin on that particular hit there. When he comes in late and they say it's the old can opener hit.
Leads by 35. Mazza has yet to strike, and that's all McDowell has done.
Going to his favorite of the 2 lanes. No longer his favorite, yep. Mark makes a little motion with his thumb that Marc McDowell got that thumb down again, just didn't keep that hand behind the ball.
How quickly it can change. Mazza's thinking 3rd place at best, and McDowell with a major error leaves the big 4 and swings the door wide open in the 5th. Now it's up to Mazza to take advantage of the open frame as he trails now by 17.
Changed his line.
Well, that's a gutsy move, Mark Baker. That's not something you want to do in the middle of a match.
The last time I saw anybody try that, Malacosta moved way outside and beat Marshall Holman in Cleveland. He moved from 3rd arrow to 1st arrow in Cleveland. He was lost, moved up to 1st arrow and threw about 8 in a row to beat Marshall in Cleveland. That's the only time I've ever seen anybody else try that.
Mazza now moving from 2nd to outside the 1st arrow, and that was Flush City there.
Nice reaction. See if he does that on the left lane, too. No, he stayed in over there. Same results with a 3-5-9.
A little puzzled as he walks back. I think he felt like he threw a pretty good shot there.
The question becomes in our minds is why did he move on the right lane and not on the left? And that is a good question. I personally think if he's going to make the move on 34 that he should have done it on 33 too.
Well, he went high in the 2nd, right, on the left-hand lane when he left the 2-pin? Or was it the 6-pin?
He left the 6-pin in the 2nd frame. At a tough spare. No
nice
trouble.
Conversion, yeah, right on top of both of those 3-pin spares. Not easy by any stretch of the imagination. Still a 17-pin lead for Marc McDowell.
Yeah.
Well, now lane 34 may be the good lane.
Well, he just made the one mistake on lane 33, you know, in the 5th frame. Otherwise, he'd have had them all. He's obviously, as Mark says, he's in the zone right now, throwing the shots just as pure as he can throw them. Everybody makes mistakes. The trouble is when you make that mistake and you get 6 and 8 out.
Start leaving those donuts. Is that what you want?
trying to increase it up to 27, his lead.
Well, this one rolls in a little later, and he slaps out the 10-pin. So McDowell with a miscue early on in this one in the 5th comes right back with a key double and now leads by 27. Applauds the effort. Will he end up bowling Butch Soper in the championship game? Only time will tell. It's been an effort. Still a clean game for Mazza, but his spare shooting abilities, Mark Baker, have been tested here.
He's kept himself in the match by making all these configurations he keeps leaving. I'm kind of curious where he's going to throw this shot.
And they moved out to about the 4 board. Ooh, that had plenty of speed. No way in the world was that ball going to get back to the pocket.
He didn't have any knee bend on that shot very much. He pretty much just threw a flame, and he's just struggling. That's the worst feeling in the world. Bowl great all week and then get on TV and not have that reaction you had all week, and you just struggle like this.
Any chance to make this, Mike?
Well, you got to figure out what it is here. The 3-6-9-7 or 3-6-7-9. It's got to hit the 3. It's like the right-hander's 2-4-8-10. He's got to hit the 3-6 so thin on the right that the 6 goes into the 9 and slides over, makes it. Gave it a shot.
Gave it a run. 10 almost came out of the back end to take out the 7, but for John Mazza, the first open of the semifinal game. Well, he looks like he's having a good time. Trying to enjoy himself under the pressure here of the championship round. That's not easy to do.
Not when you're behind by 42 pins with 3 frames to go.
And the guy you're bowling is just whacking the pocket. There we go. Mazza looks up, appreciates the effort as he finally strikes on lane 33. Well, that's the right attitude to take, Mark Baker.
You don't get the TV that often, so when you do get on there, you should enjoy yourself. I've always had a pretty good time on TV, win, lose, or draw, so he's going about it the right way.
Also going about it the right way is Marc McDowell, who is trying to dispose of his 3rd consecutive opponent. This time, ball rolls up a hair high, and he leaves the solid 4.
He just a little soft on that one. John's struggling, so I don't think Mark was as intense on that shot. Just trying to keep the ball in the pocket right now because the match is all his.
Operating right now at a 221 pace, which would be more than enough to come away a winner here in the semifinal game.
Let's bring that 240 average down a little bit, but that's all.
Scores in the medium range throughout the week this week, Mark. And for a while, it looked like you were going to have a shot at the telecast.
Yeah, I bowled real well on Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, I don't know what happened. I'm still kind of shaking my head about my middle 4 games. So take your good weeks and your bad weeks, and I'll be in Fresno trying again.
Wealth was spread over both lanes thus far. 11 strikes on 33 and 10 on the other. I know one thing. If I were Butch Soper, I'd be getting my game face on right about this point in time.
Marc McDowell's got his attention, are you saying, though?
Well, you're averaging 240, and nice and loose makes a difference. Meanwhile, John Mazza could shoot 210 if he strikes out.
Oh! You know, this match is not over yet. We're talking like Marc McDowell's got this all wrapped up, but it's he goes all the way out for 210. If I add right, Marc McDowell needs a mark.
McDowell leads by 31, but as Mazza enters the 10th frame, he could change that scenario if he strikes out.
John's defense, I think he's probably the most improved bowler on tour the last 2 years.
Had a marvelous winter tour, very consistent. Comes back with a key shot in the 10th, so he is showing you something right at this point.
He's showing me a lot. He still has a chance to win this tournament. One more strike makes Marc McDowell Mark. Makes Mark.
It's a bit redundant, don't you think?
Oh, whatever. Start throwing those big words at me, Denny.
Right now, Mazza would like to be redundant with his shot and strike again.
Certainly would.
Not much time, and a beautiful shot on lane 33. A nice comeback effort for Mazza.
That was impressive. He was lost for pretty much 7 frames and got the key lucky shot in lane 34, just like McDowell had against Duke. So who knows what's going to happen here?
He needs 9 to make McDowell get a mark.
He's come a long way back, and he finishes off the job. So John Mazza, who was basically lost through the first 7 frames, finishes with a 5-bagger in a game of 210.
And suddenly Marc McDowell has to turn it back on now in the 10th frame. And he did. Boy, he has responded under every pressure situation.
Perfect shot by McDowell, who basically slammed the door in Mazza's face. Hattie thinking to herself, okay, just one more game.
That's enough right there. He can throw the next 2 in the channel and still win.
Somehow I don't think that'll happen. And 9 strikes for McDowell here in game number 3.
He keeps that average on 240 with getting that 10 pin right there.
Yeah, averaging 240.5. If he strikes here, it's a game of 241. John Mazza will finish 3rd, and a beautiful comeback from Mazza, who really showed his grit here in the semifinal game. He just got started a little bit too late. And when you've got the guy who thinks he's number 1, Marc McDowell, throwing 10 strikes at you in a game of 241, it's pretty difficult to win. Only 2 players left here in this championship at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California. Marc McDowell and Butch Soper. Who will win? Well, Patty McDowell is keeping her fingers and toes crossed that Marc will. We'll be right back.
We give you more ways to succeed.
It will be a who's who of professional bowling's greats as Dick Weber and Earl Anthony lead the field at the AMF Bobcat Senior Classic. Live Thursday night at 7:30 Eastern, only on ESPN.
Championship Frame is brought to you by Midas. Nobody beats Midas. Nobody. And let's take a look, Mike Durbin, at the rundown. Game number 1, 267 to 175. McDowell wins this one.
McDowell finished with a flurry of strikes. This just happens to be one that we picked out that he got in the 6th frame of the action. Really was just not much of a match, as Billy Young got 2 splits early in the match, and Marc McDowell just kept striking.
Of course, game number 2 was a horse of a different color for McDowell because it was much closer. 214 to 205 was the final in that one, but it really wasn't McDowell. It was Norm Duke who made the mistake.
Well, Norm Duke got the break of breaking up the 710. He had the pocket 710 up there, had only the 7-pin to convert to make Marc McDowell strike twice, and we're going to see what happens as he shoots the 7-pin again down the left side of the lane over about the 3rd arrow from the left, and the ball never got there. Hard to believe he can miss it on the right under this condition. That opened the door for Marc McDowell to strike in the 10th frame as Norm Duke reacts to his errant shot. And Marc McDowell came through with that strike to win 214 to 205.
A game that he threw a bunch of strikes in, then of course on to the semifinal game. One more time putting the strikes together, and it's a 241-210 win over John Mazza.
And Mazza made the big finish at the end to make McDowell mark in the 10th frame. He responded with a strike. There's his reaction. Comes back holding up one finger, indicating one more win.
Averaging 241 plus at this point as Marc McDowell threw 3 games. Championship Frame is brought to you by Midas and its dealers across the country. Nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
Nobody can give you a price to repair your exhaust system until they check it out. From here to here. At Midas.
From the start of the championship game here and Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California. Just 2 players left, Butch Soper and a red-hot Marc McDowell. Mark Baker, as you assess the championship game, if you're Butch Soper, what do you do at this point in time? Tell McDowell he's got a phone call?
Really, he needs some strikes. He needs them real fast. Mark's bowling great. So right now, Butch has to bowl his own game, but he needs to shoot at least 230, I think.
Well, what about the strategy at this point? If you're Butch Soper, and we'll bring Mike Durbin in as well to comment on this, we'll get both of your guys' feedback. Do you want him to start the match, or do you want him to finish the match? Michael, what would you do in this situation?
Well, if I'm Butch, I'm assessing the games that he's already bowled, Denny, and he seems to be striking on either lane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the lane that I want to finish on then I'm going to hit the best. But I actually think the best strategy would be for Butch to finish on the left lane. That gives him an opportunity to come out and strike twice in the first 2 frames and put some pressure on Marc McDowell to get ahead early in the match.
All right, Mark Baker, what's in the back of your mind?
I'd make Mark finish on 33. The only time he's open today has been on the left lane, a couple of splits. He hasn't missed he hits the right lane better than the left lane, the pocket every time. Other than that, I try to shoot 250 and see what happens.
Well, obviously, if you could do something like that, that would be the key. What about your success? Let's talk about top seed positions and how well you guys have done through the years bowling from the top spot. Is your record good or bad, Mark?
My last time I was on was good.
I guess that's the only one that counts.
The first 5 times, it was a little lacking. And last time I won here, I was top seed, and I beat David Ozio. Last time I was on TV, I won again. So I look at those, and I kind of forget the bad ones.
Well, how difficult is it to bowl from the top seed position? What goes through your mind? Do you come out more defensive, or do you try and be aggressive?
It depends mainly on the reaction you have. I've come out real defensive, and my scores have shown it. It's tough being top. You got that, you spent the night, you think about it all night, you got all day down here. The guy's averaging 240. You're going to bowl, so you have to put that out of your mind and just go for it.
Mike, through the years, I know you bowled from the top seed position on a number of occasions. What was your plan of attack?
Denny, most of my titles came from coming up, just like Marc McDowell's done it. I came from 4th or 5th several different times from the top seed. I won my first title from the top seed. I think it's interesting to point out here that when I talked to Butch, he was already talking about how long he had to sit and wait. And now he's had to wait longer and watch this guy strike. I think the edge is definitely with Marc McDowell at this point in time.
Key question is, when you won your first title, was that in the 19th or 20th century?
That was back in the 17th century then. So
where was that? San Jose?
That was in Tampa, Florida in 1967.
1967. Well, let's go back to your first title, Mark. When was that?
It was in Miami in '84. I'll never forget that. It was one of the greatest feelings of my life.
Now, the title game has to go by fairly quickly for you, too, doesn't it, Mike Durbin?
Well, it does, especially if you get behind. The whole key here is Butch Soper has got to come out of the gate striking.
When you approach a championship game, is it hard, Mark, not to think about what you did throughout the week and how well you bowled, and maybe that will hold up for the championship game? And what happens when you come out and the shot's not exactly the same?
I think you have to worry about your keys. Every bowler has a key, whether it be more knee bend, throw it hard, whatever it may be, and that's worked all week for you to lead. So when I've been on TV, I try to think about the certain things I've been using all week to get me there and try not to worry about my opponent.
Well, we're just a couple of moments away from the start of our championship game here in the $140,000 Kessler Open. Just Butch Soper and Marc McDowell remain. We'll be back with the start of the title game right after this.
Catch it Sunday, watch the fun, Sunday night.
The Cubs face the Phillies on Sunday Night Baseball, live at 8 Eastern on ESPN.
Baseball tonight.
And in case you've just joined us here, the PBA Summer Tour on ESPN Live. Here is a breakdown of what's transpired thus far at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl. Marc McDowell, and one more time, Mr. McDowell, Mike Durbin.
Well, it's, as you said earlier, redundant, but he likes that redundancy.
267, 214, 241. Jam-packed here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California. Ah, yes, hand-to-hand combat. Don Soper and Patty McDowell. That's the toughest thing in the world, to have to sit next to a good friend whose husband is bowling against your husband in a championship match.
I know. We do that all the time now. The wives sit there.
Yeah. It's incredible how much they have to smile, too. Butch Soper starts the championship match on the left-hand lane.
So he's taking your advice. Make McDowell finish on that left lane.
Soper comes out, rolls it a little slow, and it's through the nose, and he is fortunate to escape.
He's only the 6'10". Interesting, he goes to a shinier, harder surface ball for the spares, but doesn't do that on the straight. He's the only one using what you would say, a hooking urethane ball on the first ball.
Conversion of the 6'10", so Soper spares in the first. Marc McDowell, who has wasted little time, has
struck equally on 33 and 34.
Interesting, he only has one spare, though, on lane 33. It's either been strike or trouble over on 33.
Well, we right now might be witnessing the blossoming of a player whose potential is just now coming into focus.
Well, he's responded in every pressure situation that he's had this afternoon, and we'll see how he responds in the ultimate pressure situation of the championship match. For the early lead. And it's the early give to Soper. 4-6-7.
As I mentioned earlier, that lane is the only one he's missed the pocket, and it's been the big four all 3 times. So that's holds true to form all week. If you missed left or right, you left the big four. That's why the scores are low this week.
And there's not much you can do when they're that far apart. So McDowell, who came out with a strike in the first, opens in the second, and unhappy with the shot, obviously. Now let's see if Butch Soper can step up and perhaps double and take the early lead.
Soper couldn't have asked for a better scenario than he's getting right now.
A little better ball speed, but this one rolls through once again, leaves the 6-10.
Just a little nerves, I think, Dan, right now. Just a matter of making that quality shot, throwing it in the pocket like he did all week long and in practice. Just not quite staying with the shot long enough right now.
Well, every week the tournament leader always has a little edge in some area, and I asked Butch, I said, if you made a mistake this week, which way could you go? He said, I definitely had to go a little right if I made a mistake. If I sent it short and went left, it was big time trouble. And he said, you know, if anybody had a smidgen of hold this week, it was me, because I was throwing at 200 miles an hour.
I think it's interesting too. I was talking to Marc Baker. We got enough Marks around here earlier, and he was saying that on the last day of the finals, the lanes were hooking much more. And then I talked to Butch, and he said they were tighter the last day. So Mark says that's why he's out there bowling right now, and Mark's up here with us.
Up by 10, trying to win his 4th PBA championship, his 2nd in as many years. Ooh, plenty of room here. 2-4-5, and fortunate the 10-pin wasn't around. Classic over adjustment, Marc Baker?
Yeah, he really threw that one hard, and he got the ball out even farther, so he made 2 adjustments, and the ball rolled out on him. You'll see it kind of rolls to the right here, and yeah, if it had hooked, you probably had 2-8-10, so you probably got a break at the ball rolling out.
I don't think he's going to win this match with spares. He's going to have to find the pocket and start getting some strikes.
And obviously McDowell realizes that he's struggling right now and not hitting the pocket.
Well, Mark knows that he has a great strike shot. So if he knows if Butch keeps making spares, Mark's going to throw 4 or 5 in a row here.
Well, he has virtually struck from start to finish in every game thus far. So championship game won't be any different, I wouldn't suspect. 2 for 2 on the right-hand lane. Now let's see what kind of adjustment Michael he makes on lane 33.
Let's see if he keeps that speed up. I think the last time he thought he made a quality shot and wound up getting a split. See if he moves on the approach. See what kind of an adjustment he does make.
I have a feeling he's just going to throw it just a little bit harder.
Well, he did.
Also added a little loft to boot.
He made the adjustment to get the ball down further down the lane, but leaves the solid 10. And when you start increasing that speed like that, you're going to leave hard 10 pins.
Could have taken a 3-pin lead, still trails by 7. Next week, PBA touring pros head to Fresno, California. Meanwhile, you and I will be heading to St. Charles, Missouri, at Weber's place.
On Thursday evening at 7:30 Eastern time.
That's right.
Butch looking to hit the 1-3 for the first time.
And a player who lived in the pocket from one end of this house to the other all week long.
He was impressive. The lanes were real tough, and he just went across the house shooting 230 every game.
Better ball speed, and the adjustment has now been made. Let's see if he can hit the left-hand lane.
Okay, now Butch told me he thought the right lane hooked a little bit more than the left earlier. So thinking that's why he went up a little bit at it the first time, and the ball went high, gave it more room in the 3rd frame, and he was light. We'll see if he can make the fine adjustment between the two. to get a double.
His adjustment's probably more with speed, isn't it? Anything else?
I don't know, either with speed or a little bit. He has that way of spinning it as it comes off his hand to get it down the lane.
This one's down the lane, and he catches the wall shot, which is the one that he is looking for.
That was, Butch actually ran that shot out. I've known the man for 12 years, and he's about the most unflappable person I've ever met in my life. That was some emotion for Butch. This is great.
There's a lot of emotion for Butch, yeah.
Well, he's a California dreamer, a California beach boy from day number 1, so he knows what it's like to enjoy things, that's for sure. McDowell, low crouch, comes right back with an X of his own on lane 34.
This may be the most important strike of the match right now for McDowell because he's down 17 pins. Soper seems to have found his rhythm and quality-making, shot-making ability. McDowell's got a strike here to put some pressure on him. Down 17, can cut it to 7.
Keep the pressure on, and he does as the 10-pin goes sailing into the 5th.
The match is on now. That big 4, he's just a little soft. The last 2 shots he's throwing real hard, and he has a great shot, and he knows it. So now it's just a matter of catching Butch.
Soper by 7 in the 6th.
And, oh, boy, that's a frozen rope on hook and lanes.
You mean that ball's not covering the boards?
Oh, man, did he throw that right straight at the pocket? Watch how he comes over the top of the ball. He has a unique release, and it doesn't really start rolling till now. He gets it ball down the lane. It's amazing. Mark Baker's shaking his head here. How does he do that?
That's impossible.
Trying to make it 4 in a row, and this time can't trip out the 4. So Soper's streak ends at 3, but he continues to lead here in the championship game.
It's tight in the pocket here. Watch your 2-pin, 3rd from the left. Goes to the sideboard, gets the 7, but doesn't get the 4. Boy, did he drop that shot. Don says, woo!
Ah, yes. Much tougher on the wives than on the players themselves.
To cut it to 6.
Didn't quite get that one as far to the right as he would have liked, and he leaves the solid 4.
He liked that shot. He thought he threw that ball flush, and at just the last second it flipped up on him where the ball's been rolling out before. He thought he threw that ball flush.
17-pin advantage for Butch Soper. McDowell trying to come from behind.
3 frames left. Marc McDowell has been in this situation. He was down this much to Norm Duke a couple of matches ago in this same situation, the 8th, 9th, and 10th, and he responded there by getting 3 straight strikes, winning the match.
Well, McDowell could shoot 227.
Soper is going at a 214 pace right now.
Was turned early, and a big-time break for McDowell, who leaves only the 3-pin.
Making such an effort to throw so hard with so much loft that he just wasn't physically able to stay behind the ball long enough that time. He's trying to throw so hard here. And right now he's turned early at that point. Instead of staying behind the ball, he's already rotated around the ball's left of his target.
So McDowell with a spare in the 8th. And Soper, who leads by 18, could really apply the pressure here.
threw that one wider and cleaner, and the ball just banked back and left a flush 4-9. Just hard to believe. I bet he didn't leave 2 or 3 of those all week. Watch it. He's aiming about the first arrow, and he gets it out to maybe the second or third board, and it looks flush here, and it is, but leaves the 4-9. He's really put in the situation. I think he's forced to go for it.
Any chance to make this?
Yeah. Well, of course, he's got to hit the 4-pin on the left and slide across. Butch is a very accurate player, and he's going to go for it.
Trying to slide it over and catches too much of the 4-pin. So Soper with hand on hip, a bit quizzical because he felt like he threw a pretty good shot, but he opens up in the 8th, leaving the 4-9. Still has a possible 221 game.
And he's put in a position now where he has to strike on his tougher lane 33, or he can allow Marc McDowell to get up and close him out. Only 5 pins difference right now. Soper's got him.
Keeps the speed up. Oh, what a marvelous shot, Mark Baker. A clutch shot for Soap Suds in the night.
Butch is known as a clutch player on tour. He let that 4-9. He shook it off. That was he had to have that strike. That was his best shot of the match.
He mentioned the fact that he is unflappable, and that basically comes true to form in that situation. A lot of players would have folded up after leaving the 4-9. Well, this one's got plenty of room. Sensational shot for Marc McDowell in the night.
Both of them responding in the 9th frame, but Soper's strike ensures him that he has the opportunity to get up in the 10th frame and win the tournament. As we see a replay of McDowell's 9th frame, the ball going out to about the 4th board, and we've sat here from the angle, we can almost tell every time when he's got it in the right place that he's going to strike. This is to take the lead right here.
Clean, and doesn't quite roll up as he leaves the solitary 2-pin.
And if you watch that follow through that time, it was like a short one. It was like a quick draw with a pistol or something like that. He just didn't get the thumb and the fingers out quick enough. I mean, get the thumb out of the ball quick enough to hit it with those fingers.
It was almost like the adrenaline really started pumping, and he kind of overjuiced it.
Yeah, that it can happen to anybody. That's a big shot. That's for the whole tournament. And if you don't get nervous to throw that one hard, you never will.
Well, I think the one key too is you want to throw it hard, but you want to get it going a little right.
He just threw over through the lane, and now it's up to Butch.
Strike here would give him a game of 196, his lowest of the 4, and that's not going to happen.
Really doesn't matter. Soper still needs a mark. If he'd have struck, he'd have wound up at 196. He winds up 192. He still needs a mark. We're seeing a replay here with the ball really soft on that. He had the Greek church and knocks out the 7-pin.
Scenario is set. Soper needs a mark. No 4-9 there as Soper absolutely straps it into the pocket and through the frozen rope for all the week.
Mark, did you ever see him run out a shot and then smack his hands?
I've seen him run and catch a few waves at the beach, but I've never seen him run a shot out in bowling ever.
Well, right now he is riding high because Soper has won again his 4th PBA championship, and he'll take the Brooklyn as well. Marc McDowell with a game run at Soper as Butch's wife Dawn looks on. Butch Soper, the latest PBA player to head into the winner's circle. And when you're 40 years old, Mike, you can attest to this. You don't feel like you're going to get there that many times.
Each one's sweet at that point, because like you say, you may never get there again.
Soper taking advantage in front of a capacity crowd here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl in Dublin, California, as he collects PBA title number 4 with a very tough 220-192 victory over Marc McDowell. The tears of victory and $23,000 in first place prize money. And we'll be back to chat with Butch Soper and watch him collect the fruits of his labor here in the Bay Area after these messages.
BF Good.
Next season, the Professional Bowlers Tour.